Today, I expect the U.S. government to attempt to continue easy money policies into the next presidential term, past the meat of the foreclosure crisis, and past the corporate and public refinancing humps that are upcoming. With junk bonds incredibly are again at all-time highs. Quantitative easing seems to be working for now. But this is an invalid validation of what America is doing. This is, in fact, a Pyrrhic gamble. As we continue to debase our currency, Bernanke says he is not printing money. Again, I disagree. As it stands, I get an email every single day from the Fed saying we just bought another 7 to 8 billion of treasuries, monetizing the debt. I don't know, that's pretty clear to me. In fact, this program, QE2, not Queen Elizabeth, Quantitative Easing, QE2, its scope and breadth raises a severe question of the Treasury's needs. The government's borrowing of money for the purpose of injecting cash into society, bailing out banks, brokers, and consumers is a short-sighted, easy decision for a population that has not yet learned that short-sighted, easy strategies are the route to long-term ruin. We never quite achieved the catharsis necessary to stoke a deep reevaluation of our wants, needs, and fears. Importantly, the toxic twins, fiat currency and an activist Fed, remain firmly entrenched, even more so with the financial reforms last year. In fact, the Federal Reserve, having acquired new powers of regulation, has insisted specifically that nothing in the field of economics or finance was of any help in predicting the crisis. Period. No more comment. It's a worthless conclusion. It guarantees we will make the same mistake again and again. So I have a problem with leaders. I should note, yes, I've been very overwhelmed by these mistakes they've made. We need better leaders. But very frankly, this isn't going to happen. A problem cannot be solved if it can never be acknowledged. And I don't see acknowledgement happening. Taxes need to be raised, spending needs to be cut, loopholes need to be shut if we are to have any hope of returning to a stable base. Certainly, home ownership should not be a policy of the U.S. government. And the banking system needs substantial reform and even bank breakups. Glass-Steagall needs a second run in a strong form. And those 22.5 million public workers have no business unionizing against the taxpayer. The list of things that won't happen but should happen goes on and on. As citizens of these United States, we should carefully consider what 1 trillion means. All personal income taxes collected in the U.S. in a year do not add up to $1 trillion. By 2020, interest expense on our national debt could very well exceed $1 trillion. When you consider our $1.7 trillion deficit, consider we really only take in a little over the Treasury's inlays are only a little over $2 trillion. It's quite a loss margin. $2 trillion also happens to be a little less than the amount of bank and government debt now held at our overly bloated Fed. 2 trillion seconds is 64,000 years. And what's minimum wage again? Our country's math is scary big, but even more scary is that it simply does not work. Speaking of math not working, how many of you are checking that math? Pretty sure 64,000 years. So arguments on blooming economic recovery must be considered alongside the fact that all this debt and all the money being printed is very much a real bill, a real tax on our future. It's debtor's prison for our children. It has not yet come due today except for savers and those on a fixed income. As such, I recommend sober analysis on the part of the individual. This is paramount. We must remember that entire societies can and do follow the wrong path for a very long time. They do run aground. And there is nothing wrong with breaking from the social norm to ensure good outcomes. Legacies are a terrible and sometimes fatal burden in a rapidly changing world, and common sense must rule when it comes to career paths and life choices. Though the situation seems to call for it, it is not a time for a responsible individual to tolerate any level of blind faith directed toward any man or woman. It is absolutely not a time to follow. So all that said, I might recommend opening a bank account in Canada. So happy to take questions.